Well, not long ago, as we each tried to make sense of an awakening world, annual predictions were pretty few and far between. Now it feels like we can't scroll twice without running into someone else's take on the year ahead. And I think that's probably why I almost didn't prepare one. Feels like we're saturated, like we're hoarding speculation. We're nauseated and groaning under the weight of too many potentials and a little bit dizzy with vertigo as we stand at its edge. But then I realized that this state of exhausted mental overwhelm is the message. So if you're with me, that's where I'd really like to begin. After an almost 2-year stretch of uninterrupted focus on the energetics of the times, turning of a few tarot cards here and there, a little time spent in genuine time travel, I'd really like to offer 3 linked themes that I feel will travel with us as we make this next circumnavigation around the sun in the Gregorian year of 2026. Theme 1, the truth. It's hard to speak to this theme without naming that it began for most of us in 2020 when edges of things started to unravel. And like all good unravelings, time is required and a little rot and the slow kind of weakening, I guess, of the materials that we thought were holding everything together. So by 2025, the veil had thinned enough to reveal what many had long suspected: UFOs, chemtrails, the deep state, electoral interference, the black heart of big pharma, big ag, big mining. These weren't theories anymore. They were becoming headlines. They were becoming confirmations, like quiet nods to others in the, queue at the grocery store. It's like what some of us already knew, but most weren't ready to see. And these truths weren't necessarily gentle. And when they came fast and dense and often without warning. They rewired, as they did, our mental frameworks, and they forced us to reconsider the world we were raised in. And they left many, many people dragging themselves over the kind of finish line of 2025, really feeling the weight of it all. Like we're burned out in a way, not just from world events themselves, but from the emotional toll of trying to stay in relationship with them while at the same time surviving our own healing processes. And so this is where we find ourselves, like over-informed, under-resourced, and carrying more knowledge than our nervous systems can comfortably hold. And that brings me to the next part. Because until now, the collapsing that we've been witnessing has mostly been happening out there, like across headlines, governments, systems, big business, and the so-called structures of our society. But 2026 draws a different kind of line. Like this year marks a crossing, like a threshold, a kind of a river Styx moment in the processing of truth, because now it gets personal. In 2026, the truths that surface won't just be societal. They'll cut into the fabric of who we are and how we've been living through them. The self that we built to survive the last decade might not be coming with us. The dreams that we've been carefully shaping might no longer apply. Even the relationships we thought were immovable might turn out to be held together with nothing more than cardboard and sticky tape. Yeah, this is the kind of truth that doesn't just change what you think, it changes how you live. To have described yourself as something for years and then realize that it no longer fits can feel like slow splintering glass. to have built your identity around a role, a belief system, or a version of success that now feels hollow or irrelevant or boring is disorientating. And for many, vocation and lifestyle are inextricably intertwined. So when one unravels, so does the other. So what if your career, your calling, your marriage, your community, the things that once anchored you no longer feel true? And not in a stone in your shoe kind of way, but more of a rug pulled out from underneath you kind of way. Yeah, this is the squeeze of change, the black void, the place where discomfort, confusion, and the hard choices or hard decisions rise as truth itself moves closer to you. And now you get to decide what you're going to do with it. And this is where emotional mastery becomes not just helpful, but essential. Because truth without emotional capacity becomes weaponry. It becomes overwhelm. It becomes collapse. And if 2025 was the year we saw the Truman Show as prophetic cinema, then 2026 is the year that we'll learn how to live with that revelation. Deep truths within us will continue to rise, and so must our ability to hold them without freezing, without reacting, without running, and without getting high. This is the parallel path. It's the deeper the challenge, the more clearly we're being guided towards emotional mastery. And this is what brings me to theme number 2, emotional mastery. Really, nothing is by accident. Or if it is, then we might call it a happy one. So right off the back of short form, high volume information raining down like a tropical low comes the pathway to discernment, emotional maturity, and heart-led intelligence. This is a year that calls up the kind of collective diplomacy needed for each of us to hold steady in the turbulent emotional waters ahead. It's a sink or swim moment. As the news bites get weirder and briefer and louder than ever, as we scroll faster and let the phone glow longer, we're actually being invited into depth, into intuitive knowing, into developing a keen eye for bullshit, and into leaving the phone at home and going for a walk. The acceleration of the times is urging us to become creatures of patient emotional maturity, able to hold the threads of thought and feeling in complex situations, able to braid emotional depth with intellectual clarity when faced with insurmountable odds, able to meet deep empathy with the bare bones of truth and judge no one in the process. The unfolding events themselves and how we respond to the narratives around them are two separate things. We're being asked to hold the tension of both the dying and the birthing without being overtaken by either. And that's going to take some mastery. This is grace under fire, compassionate intelligence, overcoming brute force, and at the end of the day, it's spiritual endurance. The true mastery being called forward now isn't about controlling events, becoming the hero of them, or repressing yourself to survive them. It's about knowing what's yours and carrying it with grace and surrendering what isn't. And then accepting that everything is happening for us, not against us. Each of us has a soul contract, and we are in the process of fulfilling that. We're learning not to compare, not to judge, and most of all, not to hate. In this new relational unfolding, we can trust our dreams and intuitive insights as valid forms of intelligence. We can be surprised again and again by beauty and synchronicity and our own unexpected emotional revelations. This is where we begin to balance mental clarity with emotional openness, softening into the essential goodness of the benevolent universe we find ourselves in. And then this brings me to the third and final theme, conscious community. As our values reshape in line with the peeling back of our dustier selves, space opens for new kinds of connection. Kinships of a more intentional nature grow out of the collectives clarifying. Creative communities, grassroots movements, local, intimate, meaningful exchanges alongside wide, wild global networks begin to align with the emerging versions of a newly decolonized people. Creative collaborations and soul tribes rise through the redefinition of what really matters now. And we discover that beneath it all, emotional communion is the original medicine. Finally, we might rediscover the one truth that we've been circling all along, that we're single-minded in our wish to live a life rooted in heart fulfillment. That none of it really matters unless it's love, joy, peace, and faith. While the year may offer more than its fair share of noise and drama, its deeper work is to architect a ferocious reprogramming of who we are and what we're truly here to offer. It invites us to name the people and the communities who can hold this birthing version of us, to explore the collaborative ways we can bring head and heart together, to speak with a balanced voice, to gather with intention, and to create a world in its likeness. We're the pioneers, the pilgrims, the explorers, the wild architects of the future, and everything that we do matters. So blessings for the year ahead.